Hi, everyone. Phil Stephenson here. I'm a solutions engineer. The lights are bright. I'm a solutions engineer at Datadog. I am visiting you here from Portland, Oregon. And I'm joined by Viswa and Kevin. Viswa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, all. My name is Viswa. I am responsible for developer experience in my team, and we support all crucial enterprise-level applications, and we are the SRE team at Nvidia.
Thanks. Kevin?
My name is Kevin Bigler. I'm a senior software engineer at Cambia Health Solutions out of Portland, Oregon. I'm on the team that's in charge of the healthcare member website, so in charge of both the solution architecture for that, as well as maintenance and support, like on-call support.
Thank you. My first question actually is for Viswa. So, Viswa, can you just tell us a little bit more about some of the systems at Nvidia that you build and maintain, and maybe how many users do you support?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, like I said before, we are the developer experience team. We support a lot of enterprise-level applications across the globe, and most of them are Nvidia employees. And these people are located across the globe, and they've been accessing these applications day in, day out. So we do see a lot of traffic on these applications, and we have a great user performance issues, and we solve them using RUM.
Great. Thanks. And Kevin, can you also tell us a little bit more about the systems you support and that you maintain and build?
Sure. So Cambia Health Solutions, we're a healthcare company. We've got millions of members across several states through our regional health plans. And the website and mobile app are ways that our users would go for something like to find a doctor in their plan, manage their medications, find mental health resources. So needless to say, crucial that these people are able to access the site when they need it for those resources.
That's great. And Kevin, so after you all started using RUM at Cambia for your websites, were there any, unexpected challenges in implementing RUM? Thinking about things like either instrumentation or adoption, right? What did you have to do to get, RUM to be successful?
I think that's multifaceted. So we're a healthcare company which has unique challenges to adhere to, privacy and compliance standards. We care about our members' privacy, and so adopting new tools, especially something like RUM, where you could say one of the pitches is so that you can see what your users see. That might make some people nervous who are very keen on privacy, which, again, we care about. So we did make some concessions in that department to at least get RUM integrated in the first place. Mm-hmm. We knew that real user monitoring was going to bring, highlight some blind spots for us that we didn't have with other telemetry, so it was important for us. So, one way that we compromised, so to speak, was that we disabled our session replay completely.
Okay.
With the knowledge that we could redact content or something, but it's kind of one of those things that if we can have a little give here, it's a little bit easier to get our foot in the door and get RUM implemented in the first place. But, beyond the privacy and compliance, there's other, things that we made sure that the logging through our front-end systems is still, very careful, like we are with all of our sensitive data. Mm-hmm. But, aside from privacy and compliance issues, there's just sort of it takes a while for RUM to click, so to speak. A lot of people at our company had learned about it. That's why we wanted to adopt it. But, there's some, it's one of those things where you have to experience it for yourself for it to fully make sense. So there is a little bit of a propagation of these concepts that, is a little difficult naturally.
Yeah. Gotcha. We'll get into more of those kind of
Sure.
aha click moments
Oh, of course.
in a bit. Viswa, so you've told us that you work on your developer experience platform, and you were telling me a bit about some of the challenges that you faced internally with some related to your platform, and I wondered if you could share a little bit more about some of the challenges you faced and how you approached solving those.
Sure. So, like I said, these are very crucial applications for Nvidia, and they are deployed in a hybrid ecosystem where some of the components are on-prem, cloud, and everywhere. Even though they come with their robust infrastructure monitoring, most of the time we do hear complaints from a user about like performance issues, like, hey, the page is not loading, or we have been stuck at this spinning wheel and nothing is being loaded.
Yeah.
So what we realized is whatever we see on the infrastructure dashboards are not actually making sense from a user flow standpoint. So that is where like we were trying to get to the details of like, hey, we really want to observe what user is seeing during accessing this application. And we also want to see that across the globe, not just like one region or like from one application page or one application resource. So we enable like RUM to see this holistic picture of all the resources within the web page and how each resource is performing during the page load times.
Yeah, cool. And and so after you enabled it, what sorts of unique insights were you able to draw?
Oh, for sure. So first thing is we saw people who are accessing the particular application through a VPN tunnels have like a very significant poor performance versus people who are accessing outside the VPN. And along with that, the resources on the page itself took a longer time to load, like some of the examples like attachments or macros. And we also noticed with session insights, especially after enabling the RUM, we were able to see which of the regions have higher impact in terms of performance versus which of the regions have like a better performance.
Okay.
Along with that, we also noticed the macro integrations within the application or page level integrations are contributing to the overall performance of the application.
Yeah. That's really interesting about the VPN thing. That would have been like, imagine if you try to identify that without some tooling to tell you. Kevin, you told us a little bit about some of the challenges you had, but you've told me as well about moments where you realized RUM really clicked for you and that opened up new insight that you didn't have before. Can you share that with the audience?
Sure. So I alluded to the fact that this is one of those things where once you experience it the first time, then it's almost like an epiphany, or at least that's how I felt. During on-call, when it was my turn on rotation last year, we had this repeating issue where some members would call in and say they couldn't log in to the website, which the authentication systems for the website and the app are part of our team's responsibility as well. But this was very important to us, so it spent several months building a robust runbook. We were like, okay, but the logs show that it's successful. The user says it's not successful at the exact same time. So once or twice a month, that's fine. Like maybe somebody just, maybe it's user error, or maybe our messaging on the site isn't clear enough or something. But during one of my on-call rotations, that happened repeatedly to a point where I was like, I can't just chalk all this up to user error. There's got to be something else, right? Like looking at the logs and our other back-end metrics seems like it's not giving me the answer I needed. And I was trying to think literally like I'm picturing somebody who is going to this website who's seeking some kind of medical care, and they're repeatedly trying to get in. I'm kind of putting myself in the shoes of that person. Like it's frustrating. Some of those people even they called in multiple times, which I mean, I'm sure everybody here has had to call customer service at any point. Even the best customer service, like it takes extra time. Anyway, so I realized like what are they seeing that they think that something is failing, right? Like in the login. And when I started to think, what are they experiencing? That reminded me that we had implemented RUM, which tells you what the user is experiencing. So once I got a guided tour of that from one of my the senior architects at our company, we're able to actually dive into the RUM sessions for these users and saw that, where these logs were saying that things were succeeding, like that they were able to sign in several times in RUM, it showed the same error happening multiple times. So it was the type of thing where an API was succeeding just fine, but right after that, the page just blew up. Like the front end rendering was failing. So of course, it's not making its way to the back end, so there's not going to be any logs there. So this was just an aha moment that back-end monitoring is insufficient for explaining the user experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And would you say that, did you come to find that maybe there were more errors occurring in the application that you didn't even know about?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we were glad in the first place just to answer the question of the immediate issue if somebody just called in or multiple people called in. But then finding this kind of unique, it was a Next.js, like React error. Once we saw that specific error, that, bubbled up, and so the page literally is just like a white page that said application error, check the console. But in RUM, the corresponding JavaScript error, we decided, okay, well, how does that explain some of the other calls that we chalked up to user error? And that was like, a couple times a month, but actually that had just been the tip of the iceberg. But in reality, this error had been happening dozens of times per day. It was tricky. It was, like I said, calling customer service, there's a time investment for the person. So I understand not everybody's going to call, but also this is like an inconsistent problem, so it's very difficult to reproduce. So, again, dozens of times per day over months, and we just didn't even know that was happening until this, sequence of events led us to finally see this information.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. And Viswa, so, after you discovered some of these challenges that were, your users were experiencing slow load times and poor performance, and you're able to kind of learn about some of the challenges related to the VPN, et cetera. What kind of actions did you then take to kind of improve overall developer experience?
Whatever insights we collected from the RUM, we first shared with our leadership. We explained them, hey, this is all the metrics that we have been not looking at so far, because we are more focused on looking at the infrastructure metrics, and we couldn't able to really see what users are experiencing. Now we know what users are experiencing.
Yeah.
We kind of itemized those issues and worked with teams like security team to understand, hey, are you guys okay enabling RUM in first place? If we enable, what are the security components that you want to make sure we enable? And then we work with our networking team to see, hey, is there any betterment in how we can enable VPN-less traffic for these users? And then we also worked with the CDN folks to take advantage of some of the caching for these static objects on the pages. So these action items were taken, and then we saw a significant improvement in performance of the application. Yeah. And I can say 50% of the page load times have been reduced. So that's a good win for us.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then did you get feedback from around Nvidia and developers?
Yeah, some of the people are extremely happy the way the page renders after we made those changes. Yeah. But still there are some set of users who still have problems. We are proactively tracking their user workflows, and some of them are using unsupported browsers, or on a different version of their clients and stuff like that. So we are trying to proactively reach to those users and understand their problems more in detail and try to solve those ones as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good segue into my next question. So now that you both have been using RUM for a little while now, you've learned some things about your users, their behavior, and especially about maybe where some of the skeletons are laying for your applications. how have your workflows changed? Like, has your development process changed? Like, what do you do now differently that you didn't before you had real user monitoring?
So we have integrated RUM as one of the standard for our deployment process, but not 100% sessions. We started with like a smaller approach. Like we go to stage, we enable the 15% or 20% initially. Even at 20%, RUM gives us a huge amounts of data. We built custom dashboards, which gives us actionable signals. It's just not you're dumping everything on the dashboard, but you need to make sure the core web vitals, especially the large content paint, time to first byte download, stuff like that. So which gives us the actionable items so that we work with the developers to fix them on the lower environments first before the code gets moved into production.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Kevin, same question. How about you?
Yeah. So after that first experience where we almost reached for RUM as like a last resort to figure out a problem, we started trying to flip the script and think of it more like an incident response and think of it more like RUM first. So because that first experience showed us like how much more intuitive it is to deal with RUM sessions than it is to try and piece together the puzzle pieces scattered across several different backend like microservices in their logs. Trying to bring those puzzle pieces together from the logs and then kind of say like, I'm pretty sure these relate to the user's issue. Now let's make some judgments. So there's a lot of inferring going on. With RUM, it's really nice that you can kind of start with the user's experience, see kind of more in plain English of like what pages they went to, what things they clicked on, and also get a nice view of like any errors that had also occurred at the time. So whether those are JavaScript errors that you would normally see if I could like remote into their computer, like when my mom calls for tech support, it's like, can I see what you're doing, and can I open like the dev tools and see? Well, and RUM has that, which is a lot more feasible than a one-on-one when you have like millions of members. So anyway, it's really great to start with RUM and then use that to kind of funnel down just to the logs that matter when you need them. Because we've also instrumented APM tracing to connect those two ends, the front end and back end. And just the other part of your question of like what's changed, we're just more cognizant of RUM as a tool. So there's even an instance where we had widespread outages where people couldn't log in, and it was very puzzling. There weren't any things that went off. It was just people in the company that just happened to notice. And in that instance, like eventually RUM ended up being like the first signal that we found that would correlate one-to-one with those repeating major outages, and ended up ultimately revealing that it was a back-end degradation, like memory leak. So,
oh, wow.
So it's just one of those things where now we know there's another tool in our toolbox. So, we try and make sure to use that where we can.
Cool.
Nice.
Thanks. Viswa, what would you say is, just to you personally, what would you say was maybe the most surprising thing that you learned along this journey of like doing troubleshooting and then fixing issues? And
Yeah, I mean, like once we provision the infrastructure for the teams and application is deployed and we say that, hey, your app is ready, you can go and access the application, we are like, hey, this is good, we have done our jobs. But then on the Slack, you constantly get pings, hey, I'm getting this slow time, I don't know what's happening with my application. The APIs are not rendering the page and stuff like that. So we were like, okay, what is that user is complaining about? Like, can we go and look into what's exactly happening? We used to have a call with them. We used to have a screen share with them and then see what exactly they're doing. But like just Kevin said, with the help of session replays, we were able to see the user actions and where exactly the problem lies with the application. So some of these really helped us to broaden our view with the support of an application and bring the reliability factors into how well we can bring the SLOs that everyone agrees upon, right? Because from an SR7, we say like, hey, this is 99% available, but user complains, I don't care about your 99, but my application is not loading.
Yeah.
So we are trying to bring this cohesive approach of collecting everyone agreeing upon the same number of SLOs, and that's where the RUM is really helping us to drive our actionable alerts and actionable tasks to accomplish those SLOs.
Yeah, great. Kevin, how about you? Like, what have you personally learned as you've worked through some challenges at Cambia and kind of resolved these, kind of given some of these new signals and tools that you have?
It's a very different way of thinking about problems. Like I mentioned epiphany earlier, it wasn't to be hyperbolic. It's like you really start to realize like you can kind of think about the user experience differently, or at least like looking into problems that users report. I think what it's helped with majorly, in my opinion, is to give context to the problem that's being reported. Like, for example, we get, like, because we own the authentication systems for the website, we get calls about like, my sign-in is failing. So if Bob calls, says sign-in fails, it doesn't mean literally that's the only thing he tried was just he put in his username, password, and hit submit. Like, that may not be the only thing he did. Because if you put yourself in Bob's shoes, if your sign-in fails, you probably then did it a few times. You might have also gone to account recovery to try password reset. You might have even, again, with the notion of calling customer service being extra time investment, maybe you tried it like 2 weeks ago, and maybe like last weekend, and then you tried again, and now you're calling. So all of that extra context really helps for when we're looking into the incident, because then we know whether this was like a one-off, or if this is something more consistent. Anyway, so it's great to be able to get that context through RUM that is really difficult to do with logs, like trying to do the equivalent of looking at all those APIs that are in charge of like different account recovery pieces and login over like, say 2 weeks even. It's just kind of overwhelming. So RUM simplifies it and gives the extra context.
Yeah. Yeah, giving context seems like a common topic today. I'm looking at you, MCP. Great. So, Kevin, where do you see the biggest ROI for having adopted RUM? I think specific for Cambia, just like, what do you think overall has been the biggest ROI, and is it performance, is it customer experience, or something else?
Good question. I know that we are using RUM tooling to try and measure and improve front-end performance. So certainly that is a crucial feature. I mostly could speak for myself and for my team that the ROI that I think we've gotten is that trying to build that kind of context of this is a non-mathematical viewpoint, but I feel like when we receive an incident, like 70% of it is just interpretation and getting context.
Yeah.
Before you ever try and like hypothesize on like why it's failing. So RUM is it's been a lot quicker for us to get that kind of context. So, it saves us hours or days, I think, and gives us higher confidence in many cases than the inferences we have to make with other tooling. So,
yeah, thanks. And how about you, Viswa? I know, having been a developer, we have strong opinions about experience. What would you say has been the ROI for Nvidia and developer experience?
For sure, like we were able to like lower the MTTD and MTTR in the first place. That was a huge win for us. We really want to provide a best experience for developers rather than they being on call, troubleshooting what's going on with this issue. But with this enablement of RUM along with APM and logs, the seamless navigation between the problematic pages back to the logs, application logs, helped us to detect these problems way ahead and have us being in the more proactive side of solving problems rather than reactive side of it. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge ROI for us rather than really thinking in terms of like money or anything else. Mm-hmm. So that number, that MTTR improvement is really a good achievement for us.
Yeah, it's nice to have something measurable.
For sure,
that
yeah.
you can take to the leadership, right?
Yeah.
I forgot that we actually looked up the MTTR improvements from when we started using RUM in incident response, and I believe it was like around 20% reduction or something. But that's a good call out, MTTR improvement.
Yeah, we definitely track those ones, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Nice. Okay, so I think I'm supposed to stop at this point and ask the audience here if anyone has any questions for Viswa or Kevin.
We got some microphones in each aisle. Yeah, if you have a question, come to a microphone. That way everyone can hear your question. They're right there. Thanks for pulling up the lights. Otherwise, I will be making up questions for the panel. Don't want that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for all of that, by the way. It was really informative. I walked in a little bit late, so I don't know if I missed maybe what this might have answered my question already. But I do work with user behavior in my field, which made me really curious about what Kevin described, where he was finding a pattern in the errors being very constant, to the point where he was hypothesizing and he flagged a larger issue that was actually going on. And so as someone who is learning more about what Datadog does and its capabilities, does Datadog have a plan to maybe use AI or any sort of way to speed up that process of flagging like a consistent type of error and then figuring out or being able to tell your developer what the underlying issue might be?
I'm interested in that, actually.
Oh, gosh, is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Did you attend our keynote earlier?
No, I didn't. I came like an hour-ish ago.
Okay.
They did talk about AI a little bit.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. In short, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But
very cool.
Yeah, maybe we can talk more about that after.
Yeah. Okay. I had one more question.
Of course.
What is your current process for kind of understanding and innovating the developer experience? Like, do you have a dedicated team that's like working with a lot of your clients on studying like the developer behavior and what kind of things they're looking for? Which was maybe also answered.
It's for me? Okay. So we work with both developers and also the customers who use the product. For us, when a developer comes to us for an SRE support, we kind of looks for how the product is qualified to provide an SRE support or not. Some of the qualification metrics include it should have a proper logging mechanism, it should have a proper tagging strategies, it should also have a proper setting configurations for RUM and APM. So once we have all this in place, we really want to perform that testing on the lower environments. So when we do this stress test and load test on these applications, we kind of closely monitor where the application is kind of breaking and what is the limitations of the application. So if it is like a P0 thing that, hey, we want them to go and fix it immediately ASAP. But if it's something like it's a P1, P2 issues that they have already planned in their deployment lifecycle, so we kind of allow them to go into the next environment to test. But all of these applications go through a strict security review process so that we are not leaving any leads.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kevin, do you want to speak to that last one? Or?
Sure. So we have a fairly large team that's in charge of developer experience, and then we have community practices to try and socialize across orgs, even to have standards in that area. Some things off the top of my head have to do with consistent service ownership responsibilities, which could include like types of monitoring to add and alerting, and just some processes that have to go with that. We're a fairly large like enterprise company, so it's a very like formulated thing, but does evolve over time. So
So I do have a question for the three of you. You have a magic wand. You can wave it, and you can make one RUM-related problem or innovation, either problem go away or innovation happen. What do you want to change? What do you want to add or fix?
I think I need 2 magic wands.
Oh, yeah, no, I found a second one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So one is just that signal to noise with RUM errors it's very difficult to weed through. There's a lot of like front-end errors that don't actually represent an impact to the user experience. So much of the time when we add something that's trying to be proactive, it's actually because we were reactive at a certain point. So we know that, like earlier when I mentioned that front-end error, now we know that this particular kind of error message does have a tangible impact to the user, so we can listen to that. But at that time, I got a little gung-ho, and I was like, okay, well, what other errors? What's the most frequent, like 10 errors that we have in RUM? And so many of them didn't have a clear like correlation to what a user would see. Might have been like on the side, like maybe React was like, hey, you're supposed to add IDs to those elements or something like that, The other magic wand, something that I'm actually still trying to work to a solution on is a very smooth process for unauthenticated experience, and tying that to specific users. We're pretty well versed in how to do that for the authenticated experience because we have user IDs, or at least surrogate user IDs for those. Unauthenticated experience, we do have anonymous IDs to tie the session together, but there is a lot of kind of like manual work of we have to kind of like make contrived session IDs on the front end and have those same ones on the back end, so that there's just a couple of extra steps if we're dealing with something that's unauthenticated. So I feel like there might be some opportunity to streamline that, especially because I think some of our APM data for at least certain types of like almost authenticated parts of the site, may have information that would be nice to have in the RUM session as well.
Yeah, similar thing. Actually, Kevin stole my thought process. We do have the same problem with the RUM and the APM. Tagging them sometimes is very hard for us. We do see trace IDs for some of the events, but we cannot really correlate them with the front-end RUM events. So we need to really time lock and ask user, hey, can you run this test one more time for us, please? And we kind of captured that event and then time box the same logs, APM, everything in the same state, and then we try to derive some sort of issue with the application. Maybe something we might not be doing it right, I don't know. But other thing is, in future, what I want to see from RUM is ability to seamlessly integrate with SaaS products. Today, most of the SaaS products, they don't really allow this custom SDK ingestion into their headers. We need to build some sort of wrappers around it and then try to collect some metrics. That is something, if in future, if it's available, it will be much more useful. Because, like I said before, RUM has been one of our standard now. Anytime you're throwing your application to the customers, you better make sure you capture those RUM events so that we are all on the same page.
So you guys now are real RUM power users. If there were anyone here who either is thinking about trying RUM or maybe is like a new user, what's one thing that you would suggest? What advice would you give that person as like a brand new user, something to check out?
Yeah, for sure. When we started with RUM, we kind of enable 20%, but then we don't know what to do with the data. So then we try to trim it down to one specific use case. Let's focus only on the page load times. And we took that use case, we tried to see what are the different flame graphs, why a page load is at a certain number. We try to drill down each layer and try to work with those teams to improve that layer. So my suggestion is, if you're starting with the RUM, start with the smaller number and try to focus on solving one problem at a time. That should really help us to gain more insights and understand what is your next problem to be solved.
Great. Kevin?
So I think I kind of have two. The first one is check out RUM without limits, because then you get you're going to have some benefits of like aggregate data without, going over costs maybe if you only want to retain more detail on only certain kinds of sessions. My other thing would be to, in my opinion, don't go with just RUM. Also include application performance monitoring, APM traces, because it was a game changer once we instrumented the APM tracing in RUM, as well as we'd already had it in our logs, but then at the point that we added it to RUM, what that meant is we could look at a user session, try and kind of surmise what story surrounds this activity, but then just literally click a few times, and now you're in the corresponding logs or in the other APM related data. So it's much better than what we did for a little bit before that, which was have our own IDs and try and manually search by request IDs that we defined in different areas.
We got time for one last live question.
Oh, sure. Hi. So this might be wide-ranging, but I'm curious, outside of errors, are you using RUM at all to determine what features to develop, or sharing data with execs, or monitoring adoption, or things like that?
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. We provide some default dashboards to the users, especially most of the time the business is interested to know how many users or how many active users are using this application at a given time, and how much of these are having frustration signals. So that really drives the business to help on adding up whether this is a feature that they want to work on, or this is a feature they want to hold on for some time. Or this is something this service need to be sunset and try to completely build in a new architecture. So some of these insights will help by after we enabled RUM. So there was a huge percentage of people look for, hey, is my application really that slow, or is it being bottlenecked by a network layer, or is it because my application is performing well, but I don't know whether its database is not able to respond at the given time. So all these sort of insights are available with this feature. But at that point, we kind of leave it to the business teams to decide on what features they want to enable. But some of these insights really help them to have their sprint plannings planned accordingly to improve the application overall performance.
My answer actually would be, there was a really great talk by Eric Song at the last Dash from a couple months ago, which is on Datadog's YouTube channel. So, and he did go over how that helped with their retail company, and him showing some more traditional upper management why something is important, and when they tried something new, how much better it was based on real user metrics. So.
Yeah, don't forget to follow, and subscribe. Oh, sorry, wrong outfit. Please give our panel a huge hand of applause.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.